never seem to stop working in Formula One, but perhaps just a little bit more on the schedule for the HRT F1 team as Narain Karthikeyan's car returns to the pit box. Welcome back, everybody. Race wins in the V8 Supercars were split between Holden's Jamie Whincup and Garth Tander here at Albert Park last season, with, of course, that unforgettable podium for the late Jason Richards. Now, Will Davison, well, he scored a breakthrough win for Ford Performance Racing in Adelaide a fortnight ago and is carrying plenty of confidence into these races. Calling all the action for you, Craig Baird joins Richard Crail and Jack Perkins. Welcome, boys.
Thanks, Rusty. You know, every year the V8 Supercars come to Albert Park for a non-championship round, and they go, we're going to go out, we'll do some testing, keep the car straight for the rest of the championship. Every year they come to Albert Park and go to war for 3 or 4 races, as is the case this year. And, boys, we've already seen that this morning. We had a qualifying race, and it was on from lap 1.
Yeah, it was, as we got a replay of the start here. So this was a qualifying race. We had qualifying yesterday. Shane van Gisbergen from 3rd on the grid found his way leading through the first corner, Beto.
Mate, that's a very, very good start, but it didn't last for long. He dropped back into 3rd position, a little bit of biff and barge. That is such a hard corner to get through 3 abreast. It's hard enough to get through in single file, but a bit more biff and barge here.
Yeah, this was a big crash between Michael Patrizzi and Steve Owen, and that involved the Team BOC car of Jason Bright. Got quite a big hit. The team have just told me they expect it to be on the grid for the start of this first major race, the one that plays for points. But this race featured an elimination format, and they were racing for 20th place to not get knocked out as the race went on.
Well, that was the big one. You were always going to have the guy that was going to take the lunge, and I guess that's why they did this qualifying race, is to spice it up a little bit. As you said, Richard, it's non-championship, and here's James Courtney. You could just unload someone as easy as that in a touring car. Do that in an F1 car, you're going back to the pits, but it's probably not really the way to get by someone. Van Gisbergen, there was the question was out here, really. Did he unload Garth Tander or not? I never saw any vision, but time will tell. It's only qualifying, mate.
Exactly right. It made for great racing, and eventually Mark Winterbottom crossed the finish line to start this first proper race of pole position on the front row of the grid with Jamie Whincup lining up beside him.
We had 3 or 4 laps under safety car, but when they were racing, it was properly on, wasn't it? Full contact, full-blooded V8 Supercar stuff. It doesn't matter if it's a championship round or not. There are the conditions at the moment. 24 degrees the top today. Quite humid as well, and as we've already seen in Formula One, it's pretty greasy if you put a wheel offline on this racing surface.
The track is very, very green at the moment. It would have picked up a little bit. The guys got probably, 10 or 12 laps in the dry in the F1 practice. It would have brought a little bit of rubber, and obviously the Formula One cars can put down rubber a lot quicker than any of the other support categories. But so these guys will feel the track will be a little bit more grippy. You'll probably see the times come down a little bit. If we take a look at the grid, Jamie Whincup, pole position, Mark Winterbottom. 2nd row, Shane van Gisbergen, Will Davison, someone that's really stepped up to the plate. Craig Lowndes, Garth Tander, Tony D'Alberto. Very, very solid job. David Reynolds out of 8, Michael Caruso, and rounding out the 10 is Rick Kelly.
There were some real movers and shakers, Jack, in the qualifying race. The 2 Jack Daniels cars went forward very, very quickly, and Fabian Coulthard was the lead driver who didn't run the Dunlop soft tyre.
That's a good point. Now, we have a combination of hard and soft tyres. For those of you watching at home, the soft tyre is a quicker tyre, but like any softer rubber compound, it drops off in pace around the circuit. So there'll be a point in time where the soft tyre is a lot quicker, and then it may become slower. So each competitor needs to run both hard and soft tyres in the race. So we saw a majority of the guys run the soft tyre in that qualifying race, and Fabian Coulthard was the first of the runners who didn't. So he's got 2 fresh set of soft tyres sitting in the garage.
And that will pay dividends later on in the weekend. As we get to Sunday, he will be able to have at least 1 race up on those soft tyres. But the tyre degradation is fairly high. You're looking at 2 to 3 tenths per lap. So once they've set their fastest time, the degradation will drop away. Ross Stone believes it's around that 2 tenths to 3 tenths.
So there is a compulsory pit stop in this race to change tyres. You must run the hard and the soft tyre in the race. What order you run it in is entirely up to the teams. Now, there's a yellow indicator light in the windscreen there. You can see it in Will Davison's Trading Post FPR Falcon. He has got soft tyres on.
He wants to get to the front.
The the three cars in front did not. They're
Correct.
on the hard tyre.
The next one is Craig Lowndes on a soft tyre. So you will see Will Davison and Craig Lowndes make their way to the front. The key for the guys starting up the front, Winterbottom, Whincup, Van Gisbergen, they need to hold those guys back for as long as they can, because the back half of the race, they will get back to them.
Exactly right. Another point, being a non-championship round, V8 Supercars have suggested that the teammates cannot pit together, so we won't see any stacking in this race. So you'll see the 888 Vodafone car of Lowndes and Whincup and the FPR factory cars are running opposite strategies to each other's car. So they're obviously going to be pitting at different times so that they don't get caught out with that non-stacking availability.
Look, and I'm not a big fan of stacking. I think stacking in the pit lane, and it jeopardises the people behind you or next to you in the pit lane. It's not a good idea. It's better for the racing. Get on and let the strategy play out.
Well, for Ford, the big question mark about Ford Performance Racing was, could they turn around their soft tyre form? This weekend might answer some more questions. Whincup and Winterbottom on the front row. The V8s are underway at Albert Park. And a good start from Winterbottom, but Whincup's hooked up better. And Dave Reynolds on the outside flying.
Great start, Dave Reynolds. They're 4 wide heading into turn 1. It looks like Jamie will get the inside run, and he leads them through turn 1.
Craig Lowndes had a look up the inside in the second team Vodafone car, but he's lost ground, remember, with the soft tyres on car 888. But it's Whincup leading, Winterbottom next, Davison already to third, and David Reynolds in the Bottle Racing entry looking racy on lap 1.
Well, you can see what happened to David Reynolds. He's gone a little bit wide into one, got the tap.
Dear.
And this is the concertina effect we see, and someone around Teddy Slade is being turned around. When we talk about concertina, the further back in the pack you are, the worse the concertina effect. You saw James Courtney way out over the extended curb.
It is, and we saw the FPR, all 3 team cars nearly touch one another, and team principal Tim Edwards would be sweating when you see 3 team cars racing that close.
Reynolds has had plenty of speed all weekend and looked racy in the opening few corners, but Jamie Whincup has gone. And Van Gisbergen, Jack, in the opening lap of the qualifying race this morning, was fast. He then dropped back, and as the race went on, he got better and better. But the SP Tools racing car from Stone Brothers Racing looks pretty strong, pretty consistent. Yeah,
it was very strange in the first qualifying race. Shane made an exceptional start, and he got into the lead as Will Davison's passing him now through this fast section of the track. But I think these two Ford teams in particular are doing a great job. Stone Brothers, FPR are the form teams at the moment, but Whincup on cold tyres has leapfrogged away from the field.
Now that pass of Will Davison on Van Gisbergen, that is solely coming from a soft tyre, so he's got to make hay while the sun's shining. He cannot afford for the degradation to take over on the soft tyre. You got Jamie Whincup, smart operator, one of the best in the field, and he is stretching his lead. He has got out there, so if he can hold on to a bit of a lead for 3 or 4 laps, the soft tyre will get slower.
And Michael Caruso just running wide at turn 13, and that's caused a bottleneck in the midfield in this very competitive V8 Supercar pack, and all of a sudden everybody just about on the hard tyre has hit pit lane. So Whincup is in, one of the Jack Daniels racing cars is in, that's Rick Kelly. Mark Winterbottom in from 3rd place. The Bottle Racing entry is in the pit lane as well with David Reynolds.
This is where there's big pit pressure on the pit crews here. They need to do a great job. It's a small pit lane, so you can't afford to have a slow stop, and it looks like there's a left rear problem.
Spinning. He got the wheels spinning. One of the things they try and do, they put it into gear, let the foot off the clutch, but if the guy on the tyre cannot get it on, cannot get the wheel on, and it's spinning, it's over.
And it becomes quite dangerous with the wheel spinning, trying to get the wheel on.
Will McCloy might have more on that, Will.
Well, that's right. A lot of the boys coming in, and after 1 lap and putting on the soft, so Jamie Whincup has lost about probably 5 or 6 spots coming out of there. They couldn't quite get it on, and as you saw, he lost a bunch of spots. There's a few shaking heads down here in 888 because he got off to such a good start. But now that could mean if he's got that bit of extra pace that we're going to see him slice through the field a bit more if the conditions stay the way they are. But I'll keep you updated, boys.
Thanks, Will. He had track position. He probably had 2 or 3 seconds as we take another look at the start.
Look at Reynolds on the outside in the Bottle Falcon. Got such a run on here, but there's nowhere to go. You cannot run round the outside. He was lucky it was his teammate. Winterbottom just gives him a little tap there, but gets out of it. But puts him onto the AstroTurf and no drive down to 3.
Yeah, especially that AstroTurf is still wet from last night's rain, so absolutely no grip. And David Reynolds was the big loser there, unfortunately. He headed into the first corner second. He came out in about 6th.
And Lowndes, I thought, initially had made a good start. It actually wasn't particularly great, and he got wrapped up by Garth Tanner in the Toll HRT Commodore on the run down to turn 1. They exchanged a little bit of body paint between the two of them. So there's Davison, there's Lowndes, there's the gap back to Garth Tanner. Then Lee Holdsworth now up to 4th place. James Courtney has made plenty of ground by staying out. As we see Michael Patrizzi in the second of the Techno Autosports cars. Car number 91 was involved in that crash earlier on this morning. Quite a lot of front-end damage, mainly superficial, punched the radiator in. They've got that car turned around. It's back out sponsoring or sporting new signage from Etihad Airways this weekend.
The leader, Will Davison, sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:57.4. Craig Lowndes, 1:57.4, just outside it. And then we take a big drop back to James Courtney at a 58.2.
So teams reminded to make sure that compulsory pit stop light is turned on. If you're running the soft tyre, you've got to run that light. It's an aid for us sitting here in the commentary box, those watching at home, and everyone around the circuit as well to make sure. So we're waiting for this order to sort itself out, but at this stage it looks like Will Davison is the man to beat by starting on that soft tyre. He's got track position early. He's now got to go build a margin, and the guys he's racing are going to be Van Gisbergen, Winterbottom, Rick Kelly, that second group that started on the hard rubber.
Yeah, it's going to be somewhat a reverse strategy. So the guys that started on hard tyres did the minimum requirement. They did one lap on their hard tyres, and now the rest of the race is on soft. So I think we'll see Will Davison, Craig Lowndes, James Courtney do the majority of the race on the soft tyre, and then they'll finish on the hard.
They'll pit on the last or the second to last lap. So we're not going to see the play out of this race until about lap 12.
Right at the end, as we see Michael Patrizzi dicing with Stephen Johnson.
Patrizzi's got good car speed. He's really making some passes here. He's got good car speed.
Well, it was one of the big stories from round 1 of the championship proper at the Clipsal 500 Adelaide 2 weeks ago, guys, was these two Techno cars unloaded and were very, very fast, and Jono Webb was in the top 6 all weekend. Unfortunately, that big crash in qualifying on Friday with Greg Murphy really hindered his weekend. They've gone to a backup car they've borrowed from Paul Morris, but this is a good young team that's really started to kick some goals early.
It is, and you really saw good pace from Jonathan Webb at Adelaide. Like, I think it surprised everyone, especially when it came top 10 shootout. One thing's to get into the top 10, but another one is to try and deliver a one-lap time of a 21.5 that he set. That was nearly good enough for the front row.
It was, and it just shows you, I mean, the equipment they're using are Vodafone built cars by the 888 race engineering stable, so they're doing a great job with those cars, and it's a shame for Webb that he can't be here in that car, but good to see him on the grid nonetheless.
Craig Lowndes now sets the fastest lap of the race down to a 1:57.1. Let's not forget, Jamie Whincup's pole time on the soft tyre was a mid-55, half a second clear of anyone. Lowndesy holding nothing back in the 888. Vodafone.
So Lowndes is closing. Will Davison leads. The V8 Supercars are underway at Albert Park. This race should be a thriller. We'll see how it pans out when we come back to the Qantas Australian Grand Prix here in Melbourne. Might be for 13th and 14th on the racetrack, but in the overall scheme of things, this battle between Jamie Whincup and Rick Kelly might be for the overall race victory as the V8 Supercars continue as part of this big weekend at the Qantas Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix. Richard Craill, Jack Perkins, Craig Baird with you in the commentary box, and with one of his cars leading the race down in pit lane, we've got the team boss at Ford Performance Racing, Tim Edwards, on the line. Tim, good afternoon to you. So far, so good for Will Davison, and that gamble to start on the soft tyre paying off so far.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not bad, but in actual fact, Frost and Gibbsy are the ones to really watch at the moment. If you look at their lap times, you know, they're significantly quicker than Will and Craig. So, you know, the theoretical leader of this race at the moment is Gizzy with Frosty on his tail.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Jack Perkins here. You must be very pleased with the performance of your cars this year. You've had 3 cars in the top 5 on the grid and all looking good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we had a great race at Clipsal 2 weeks ago, and, you know, we talked about coming out this season and continuing on with the form that we had at the back end of last year at Homebush, and pretty much we delivered on that at Adelaide, but this was a bad race for us last year, so this one was the one that was sort of proof in the pudding that we've actually got our house in order.
Mate, Craig Baird here. Just tell me, you did close your eyes at turn 1 off the start when you had 3 of your cars abreast, did you?
I actually said that'll make a good photo afterwards because all 3 bonnets were like line astern. It was a bit like Tassie last year where I think it was PD popped out of the pits, and Frosty and Will were right there at turn 1, and we've actually got a good photo of that on the wall.
Hey, mate, good to see the cars up there. Take care. Thanks for talking to us.
All right, thanks, guys.
Tim Edwards from Full Performance Racing joining us from pit lane. This is Jonathan Webb in a borrowed racing car. That's not how you treat a rental car.
No, it looks like he was having a bit of fun with the new guy on the block, the French driver, Alex Pramat, and they were having a bit of a dice through turn 1. Interesting stuff.
Well, Alex said after Adelaide he had a huge amount of respect for these guys because of the way he was treated, but I reckon he'll leave a non-championship round with a totally different mindset on how he's been treated, because the bloke has been bashed from pillar to post.
It's funny, isn't it, though? Everyone talks about coming to a non-championship race and, we'll do a bit of testing, we'll try this, we'll try that. Mate, you know what it's like better. These blokes are out here to win. You're not here to finish second.
Mate, and it doesn't even matter what the team manager says. The team manager can say, mate, I want the cars back in one piece, they're tidy, but you got race drivers that are pulling a helmet on and horns pop out the top of them, the red mist comes down, and I've always said it, mate, she's fisticuffs.
Exactly. As Wincup's just put the move on Rick Kelly, so that's effectively for 13th and 14th on the road, but whilst the first 8 competitors are yet to pit, we'll have to wait to see where they finish up.
So the effective race leader is Shane Van Gisbergen, as Tim said, but Will Davison leading on the road. What would that win at the Clipsal 500 do for Will Davison? We know this is a confidence game. Not much a bigger confidence boost than a win on that place.
Will Davison is a class act in a race car. He comes from a great breed of race drivers with the Davison family. I rate him as one of the best drivers out there, and I must say at one point of his career a year or so ago, I really felt for him. He couldn't get the results he was looking for. He came off some race wins with Dick Johnson. He moved into the Walkinshaw family, and for whatever reason he couldn't really adapt his driving style to that car. And anyone that's driven one of those cars has to say Garth Tander, in my opinion, is one of the only blokes that can actually get that car to work. They're a difficult car to drive, obviously very fast and in the capable hands of Garth Tander, but we've seen a little bit with James Courtney. He's trying to change his driving style to is it Craig Lowndes coming in?
Lowndes in the lane from second on the road for his compulsory pit stop.
I reckon they've almost got to outlaw what we saw with Jamie Whincup doing, where you put the car in gear, let your foot off the clutch, let the wheels spin, because the mechanics generally put the wheels on by the middle of the rim, and if it starts turning when your fingers are in there, you've got the brake caliper. That's Lowndes out.
I was going to say, it looked like he was travelling into the pits quite slowly, and it's gone straight into the garage, so there must be a mechanical problem there.
And last lap around, he dropped about a second and a half to our race leader, Will Davison. So some dramas for the Team Vodafone Commodore. The Bathurst legend, what a season he had last year, and you get the feeling he's come into 2012 feeling energised, and he looks fit and healthy and fired up and ready to go.
It reminds me a little bit of the Webber-Vettel battle, you know, the old ball, young ball, and, you know, it's always tough to knock off a teammate that's at the top of his game, and no matter what anyone says, Whincup is at the top of his game.
Well, we need to tell you about an exciting competition. Our friends at Shannon's are offering you the opportunity to win a 5-day tour for 2 people to the world's most popular race, the 2012 Formula 1 Monaco Grand Prix. Simply go to www.shannons.com.au/Monaco to check out everything included, plus all the details for your chance to win. A break from Albert Park. Back with more shortly. Vodafone working hard in pit lane. They're trying to get this car started and back into race 2 of 4 in this fantastic concept for the V8 Supercars here at the Formula 1 Qantas Australian Grand Prix. Craig Lowndes still looks like he's smiling inside that car. He's never not smiling.
The bloke is always smiling, but look, everyone has a little bit of bad luck in motor racing. It's just the way it is, but if you're going to have it at a non-championship round.
And Will McCloy, I think, is down there with Craig now.
I haven't got Craig. He's still there hoping to get back out. But the boys said, Craig just said the car's not revving. He couldn't get the power down and there was a problem with the pressure. But the boys got under the hood and they think they've fixed it now. They checked the return filter and they think they've fixed it. He's going to try and get back out and at least get a run around ahead of race 3 tomorrow. But there was a bit of confusion in here for a little while they tried to work out what was going on. But it looks like they'll at least try and get out for 1 lap and see if it works. They fired it up. So we'll just see if he's able to get out for another lap.
Fuel pressure problem by the sounds of it.
Yeah, there's
stands are under the car, please. All stands are inserted. Would you leave the car here? The boys will do the engine stuff.
That's the Triple 8 team talking to the mechanics there. There's a number of problems that can happen with the engines. Kenny Mack, the engine guru down there for Triple Eight, he does a great job. I'm sure he'd be there dissecting the problem now, and they'll try and finish the race so that the problem's fixed for tomorrow. Bit of an angry pack here, Beardo, with a few of these guys in the middle of the field.
Yeah, well, mate, as we always say, there's nothing to lose around here, and you want to get yourself into the top 10. But Will Davison still leads, but needs to do a pit stop. Carl Reindler, second place, needs to do a pit stop, and David Wallen, third. James Moffat has fired it off the road on lap 11, down into 1. Very, very... Oh, he's been rear-ended. Is that Jonathan Webby?
Yeah, that's Webby in the borrowed Morris car there. He's got it all wrong in the braking zone and given Moffat a bit of what for as they just...
Well, maybe it hasn't been Paul Morris all this time. Maybe it's something in the car, you know, like the dude's a good bloke, but he has drop-kicked a few in his time.
We might leave that one alone there, but as Will Davison is still streaking out in front.
Let's go back to Will. I think he's got Craig Lowndes now, Will.
Yeah, he said he's always smiling. He's smiling right now. Craig, tell me what happened.
Well, actually, it was going to game plan, I suppose. We started on a soft tyre. We were trying to go run as long as we could. We're having a great battle there with Will, and the engine just started to lose a bit of power. So we came in. The guys are going to have a look. They think that something might be broken. They don't know. Look, we're going to have a look at it. We don't want to risk it, as you said before. It's not a championship round. We don't want to damage an engine just for the sake of running around.
Oh, well, we'll be back out there tomorrow, I think, mate. Doesn't look like it's going to be too big of an issue.
Oh, no, the car's actually working really well, so I'm really happy with the car balance. And, of course, coming from the back of the field, it's always entertaining, so we'll put on a good show.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, thanks.
Well, always smiling, as we said, but he'll hopefully be back out there for race 3 tomorrow morning and get some more miles under the belt of car Triple Eight. This man is leading the race, but he has to pit this time.
He will be in this lap, and this is going to be the interesting part. Where does he come out in comparison with Shane Van Gisbergen? My money's on the Giz. I think he's done enough during the middle part of the race. His lap speed was good. I think he will just pop out. The other part of that is they'll sprint for the last lap. If they come out together on the track, they will sprint for the last lap. One is on hot tyres, one is on cold tyres.
And they're not just cold, they'll be cold, hard tyres. So this will be an interesting situation here as Will's in the pits. A lot of pressure on the pit crew here. FPR guys have been predominantly really good with their pit stops, so this will be an interesting pit stop race, but also racing the stopwatch with Van Gisbergen and doing some great lap times in the last sort of 8 to 10 laps.
Stops it on the marks.
And this is all down to tyres. And at round 1 of the championship, the pit stops were key in getting this guy out in front.
Good stop, but will it be enough? This will feel like an eternity, because not only does he have to do the V8, then he comes into the pit lane for the Formula 1, so you're almost doing 2 pit lane lengths. It's just waiting. That will feel like he's doing 5Ks down there. We need to get a shot of the front straight.
It would feel like a long time, you know what it's like, Daz. And you're leading the race, and, you know, where you exit the track can really determine where you're going to finish this motor race.
I think he might have popped out.
I can't see Shane Van Gisbergen at all.
There he is. No, it's Van Gisbergen. It's going to be Van Gisbergen.
And Winterbottom got him as well. So Will's rejoined in effectively 3rd place on the road.
But in the last lap, Mark Winterbottom's taken a full second out of Shane Van Gisbergen. It's not over yet for Full Performance Racing. The guy that's led most of the race might not be able to win it, but the number 5, Orcon Steel Falcon, might yet have a shot at this.
Black flag for car 19, Jonathan Webb. That will be for putting Moffat into the gravel trap at turn 1. But this is going to be a battle. Out of 4 into 5. Winterbottom's got pace. Oh, big oversteer. The degradation of the soft tyre. They're both hurting.
He's looking.
There's a big lunge.
Up the inside goes Mark Winterbottom. He's in front. Looking to make it 2 from 2, but Van Gisbergen will fight back.
It is not over.
This is a great race. It makes me wonder, Beto, whether Van Gisbergen was pushing too hard there to try and bridge the gap to Will Davison and probably cooked the rear tyres, which has enabled Winterbottom to have a better race car here in the final stages.
Well, the one thing we all love about Shane Van Gisbergen is how he fights and how he always drives at 11/10. Now we need to see some of that from the SP Tools Falcon if he can get back in front of Mark Winterbottom. He's the form driver. He won brilliantly last night, this morning, in the qualifying race. He was pretty good in qualifying. He said he was happy, he was confident. The car unloaded well from the truck. It was good from the first lap. And now he's leading on the last lap of race 2. So far, so good. Few corners to go.
There's no doubt these are the two form teams at the moment for Ford. You know, you've got Ford Performance Racing, the factory team doing a great job, and of course Stone Brothers Racing, which our partner here, Bed, I'll be driving for later in the year in the endurance races.
Yeah, I had a quick test in the car a couple of weeks ago, and I must say it was a lot different than a Walkinshaw car, but you know, nice to get back reunited with the Stone Brothers. I've got a huge amount of respect for them, and they run a very good outfit. But FPR, Mark Winterbottom is going to take this one. Van Gisbergen, Davison, Garth Tander.
There's a win here back in 2009 and a win this morning. That's a third for Mark Winterbottom on the streets of Albert Park. A great victory, a tactical victory, but he had to do the job on the racetrack at the end, which is what we want to see. A great move there on Shane Van Gisbergen up at turn 8.
We can't forget the fact either Jamie Whincup had great car speed, had a very big gap on a hard tyre in the first lap of the race, and a fumbled pit stop. So Roland Dane will get the rope out tonight and start whipping people around in there. But as we said, it's a non-championship round, so it doesn't really matter. But very rarely do we see Team Vodafone make a mistake. But there is your top 10. Winterbottom, Van Gisbergen, Davison, Tander, Whincup. Holdsworth did a good job, brought himself up to 6th place. Rick Kelly, David Reynolds, after his fantastic start, got bumped a little bit in turn 1. Fabian Coulthard up to 11. Greg Murphy, good job from Murph. Worked his way up to 12th. Caruso, Johnson, D'Alberto. I would have thought maybe a little bit more of D'Alberto. Had really good speed come qualifying. Taz Douglas, Patrizi, Reindler, Wall and Stevie Owen.
Despite the dramas earlier on today, Steve Owen cracks the top 20 and Dick Johnson Racing have been struggling, but this man will be happy. Final thoughts quickly, guys. Great drive. Ford Performance Racing looking really, really strong.
Mate, the gloves are off from here on. You've got guys like Whincup. They'll be wanting to fight back. You've got Davison who will be wanting to beat his teammate. You got Tander who really, you know, he's the king around here, mate. He's won a lot of races, so she'll be all on.
Well, Rusty, I don't know about you, but I love the V8s at Albert Park, and that race has just confirmed how good they really can be.
And then you said it before, Richard, the fact that it's a non-championship round doesn't really mean anything. 100 grand prize money for the winner this weekend, 50 for second, 25 for third. And another dimension when we bring you the remaining 2 races this weekend, fuel stops as well. You'll see that all in our coverage. Now, what happens when a road car, a V8 supercar, and a Formula 1 car hit the track together? We'll find out in just a few moments. On the way to a break, we'll decode a little Formula 1 componentry for you with James Allen, thanks to Sigmatech.
When you want to explain complicated technical things on a Formula 1 car simply, there's no one better than Pat Simmons of the Marussia F1 team. He's going to take us through a few technical details. Let's start, Pat, with the aerodynamics of an F1 car. How does it work from front to back?
Of course, the aerodynamics are the single most important thing to get performance from a Formula 1 car. It's a very aerodynamic device. Everything has to work together. Now, this car is travelling through the air at anything up to 320 kilometres an hour. And you can see the front wing for a start, you know, very complex device, because what we're really doing is we're trying to manage the air all the way down the car. The air comes off the front wing, it makes what are called vortices. There's a spinning columns of air, and each one of those we need to know exactly where it's going. We have to trap it, we have to use it. The further back on the car you can see things like little barge boards that control the air, bring it all the way through into the underbody, the diffuser and the rear wing, all of which have to work together to give the total performance of the car.